back inside the courtroom for the trial that we're currently showing you here on Court TV. Today was day one. Witness one called to the stand is Chantel Oakley, who is the mother of the victim, but she is also the girlfriend of the defendant. Let's take a listen.
Moving on, did you get a phone call?
I'm sorry?
Did you receive a phone call from Morgan County Schools?
Later.
What did Morgan County Schools tell you?
That my child, Riley Crossman, had been marked absent in one or more classes.
And based upon receiving that phone call, what did you do next?
I called 911 to report her missing.
Do you recall what time you called 911?
I think it was around 6 when that phone call came in. I had looked at the school and looked at the event they were having for Alexis Miller. I had started contacting some of her friends and done other things until that point, but I wasn't sure what was going on, if she had just, decided she wanted to hang out with her friends and break the rules, and I don't know. I was just trying to see if she was in school, because if she was in school, then I thought maybe she had just decided to, take her lumps.
I glanced over this real quick. When you were at work, again, we're talking about May 7th, did Riley ever text you on May 7th? Going back to...
Oh, yeah, that evening she had texted me and asked if she could go to her friend's volleyball game on the 8th, Wednesday. And I had said, maybe, we'll see. And then she texted me and asked if that friend could stay or come to our house to get ready. And I said, probably. And then she texted me and said, never mind, it's canceled. 3 laughing emojis.
Okay, did Riley ever use emojis in her text?
Constantly. I joked with her that she was very emotional.
Okay. It's a new term. Did she ever use certain types of emojis?
A lot of laughing emojis or crying emojis or angry emoji.
And again, for people that don't use emojis, what are emojis?
They're, I don't know, little characters that show up on your phone. So it's like a smiley face with tears or big cheesy smile.
Okay. Hearts?
Lots of hearts.
Did Riley use hearts?
Especially as they pertain to Hayden, yes.
All right. Again, going back now to you call law enforcement. Do you remember law enforcement showing up?
Yes.
And did you tell law enforcement about the phone call that you received from
the school? Yes.
All right. And do you know what law enforcement tried to do on May 8th? As far as trying to locate Riley?
I'm not entirely sure everything they tried to do, because we were doing a number of things as well. I think they checked with the school to see, because I know I didn't find out that she had missed all of her classes until sometime in the afternoon of the next day.
Okay.
Because she had been marked present in a couple of classes, but there were teachers that were notorious for not taking appropriate attendance. So when the school reviewed everything, they determined she was in fact not there the entire day.
All right. And what did you do to try to find Riley?
Well, my friends and family, they all did a tremendous amount, but they organized a search on, I think it was the 9th.
So I know this is a very broad question. I want to focus May 8th.
Yeah.
You get the phone call from the school. Mm-hmm. Riley's not there. May 8th. What did you do on May 8th to try to find Riley?
Oh, so after I spoke with law enforcement, we went and looked all around town. We were calling her friends. We drove over to Greek Capen because there's a little friend that she used to stay with there, so I went and checked her house. We went and looked in a cave that somebody said that that's where she was going. I don't know. We did. We called and we texted and looked everywhere.
All right. Did Andy McCauley come back from work?
He did. He came back while I was talking to law enforcement when they first got there.
Did you see him come back?
Yes.
What do you recall about what happened when Andy came back?
He got out of the car and his face was like real big and his eyes were real big, and he just kind of like slow walked over to me, and I started saying, Riley's missing. I can't find her. She's not answering her phone. My texts aren't delivering. I don't know where she is. And he was like, what? Let me go put my stuff down. And he runs inside. And then he comes back out and he jumps on a bicycle and says, I'm going to go look for Riley. And he takes off.
Do you know if he got a cell phone when he went inside the house?
He didn't, because after I finished talking to law enforcement, my best friend Kelly and I were going to go look for her. And so I went inside. I think I tried to call him, or I was going to call him. So I went inside to see if he had taken his cell phone, and it was still at the house.
Okay. And do you know exactly where Andy went when he got on the bike and left?
I don't know exactly where he went.
And when you say bike, are we talking about a motorcycle or
No,
a
like
bicycle?
like a bicycle.
Right. Does Andy drive?
No.
In fact, after he was no longer employed with Don Morgan, where was he working after that time frame?
He was working in Baltimore for some friends that owned a construction company.
Okay. How would he get to Baltimore?
I would drive him to Mount Airy every Monday to meet another employee of the company that would pick him up in a work van.
Okay. And would you pick him up sometimes too?
I would pick him up every Friday.
All right. And going back to him on the bike, did you eventually meet up with Andy?
Yes. We were, I think, in the park in town looking, and he showed up on the bike there.
At some point, did you make your way back home that evening?
Yeah.
All right. Did you go back out that evening to look for Riley?
We looked all evening. Then we went back to my friend Kelly's house, and we're trying to come up with, what could possibly have happened, and looking through her social media and doing as much as we could. And then I went home. It was around midnight or later. I was on the phone with Riley's dad, and he said, "Did you check the high school?" And I mean, I did, but I didn't thoroughly check every nook and cranny. So I took my dog and I walked the path that she would have walked, checking, there's a stream there and there's tall grass. So I was checking all of that to see if maybe she fell on her way to school and she's laying there, or maybe she got into a fist fight and she's laying there, or she wasn't really a fighter, but
Okay.
whatever. Any scenario could come up with. So I looked at the whole high school, and then I finally came back and I took a shower, and then I sat in my bed for a few hours looking through social media.
Can't imagine what that moment was like for that mom, the desperation looking for your daughter. And now to have to get inside a courtroom and relive all that while the man who's been accused of committing the murder is in the courtroom looking at you. All right, we've got more when we come back. Don't go away. Let's take you back inside the courtroom. This is Chantel Oakley, the mother of the 15-year-old girl who was murdered, is the victim in the case. The defendant is Chantel's boyfriend.
Fortunately, you received the tragic news about Riley, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you remember where you were?
I was in the sheriff's office.
And eventually, law enforcement in my office had to show you photos of Riley's body. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember the clothes that were found on Riley's body?
Yes.
This photograph right here, is that the same shirt that was on Riley's body?
I believe so, yes.
And Mr. James, for the record, that would be Exhibit 28.
Exhibit, I believe so. Ms. Oakley, would you confirm?
Yes,
that?
it says 28 on the back.
Okay. Do you remember the type of pants or shorts that were on Riley's body?
Yes, they were shorts she would never have worn outside of our house.
Have you ever seen her wear those shorts inside your house?
No, they were Daisy Duke jean shorts, and Riley barely ever wore jeans to begin with. She was always in comfy clothes. She
And-
hated the way that jeans felt on her.
And the shoes that Riley was wearing, do you remember where the shoes came from?
Actually, I didn't recognize the shoes when they showed them to me, but I later found out my mom had bought those for her at the Goodwill.
Okay. One second, Your Honor.
Ms. Moore, take it down.
Just a Couple more questions, ma'am, and I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ms. Moore, if you could bring up the photographs again. I think I'm looking for State's Exhibit number 9. Ma'am, do you recognize this photo?
Yes, that's Riley's book bag and her glasses.
Did Riley always wear glasses?
Yes.
And this picture here shows the full-length mirror in Riley's bedroom, correct?
Yes.
Is that how you remember
Yes.
the full-length mirror?
Yes.
And is that the full-length mirror that you stood in front of to check yourself before going to work?
Yes.
Does anything strike you odd about this photograph?
Well, one, her book bag is there. That was not there when I walked in that morning. And her glasses were absolutely not sitting there. I would have stepped on them.
Don Morgan. Do you know where Don? You said you know where Don Morgan lives, right?
At that time, I do.
It was your former residence,
Yes.
correct? And at that time, and I say that time, I mean May of 2019. Do you remember where Bobby Golden was living?
He was living with his dad, and I know it's up like near Briarwood or Tower Circle. It's like there's like a whole little area up there. It wasn't in Briarwood, but it was just outside of Briarwood.
Is it an apartment complex?
It was actually a house.
Okay. And do you know how to physically get to that location from the Greenway address?
Yes, you just go. Actually, you can just shoot right up and go through the cemetery, Greenway Cemetery, and you're right there at Johnson's Mill, right by Tower Circle and Briarwood.
My question to you is Bobby Golden's residence then anywhere close to Don Morgan's residence?
No, it's not.
It's horrible when you think about this situation that this mom is in. You know, it's all, she's lost a child already, right? So now on top of all this, it's your boyfriend who's charged with the murder, and now you've got a murder trial. There's no plea. He didn't admit anything. You know, you've got to have this trial, and you've now got to sit there and go through all of this, and that's what's happening.